I started out debating with this classical idea of I want to stand on big speeches and with a nice suit and be admired by crowds. I did get that, to be perfectly fair, but ultimately what kept me staying in debating is the ridiculous amount of things that I didn't expect to gain along the way. One is that I very rarely by now get misunderstood. Whenever I want to express my opinion, whenever I want to say something, I can be pretty certain that people will understand exactly what I want to say, exactly what I want to communicate, especially as when I was a little bit younger, my early 20s and late teens. This was an incredibly improvement of my quality of life just by making sure that I wouldn't be misunderstood. So that is one thing that people tend to underestimate. The second that I couldn't really predict was just how fascinating and interesting this community was, and how you start, just because you under short periods of time have to think about complex issues, you start noticing how much quicker you get and how analytically you very comfortably just kind of get into deep, difficult questions. That has been incredibly enriching. But beyond that, just the sheer amount of people that I got to meet over the years. I have quite a few very close friendships. I even met my girlfriend through debating now for 5 years and counting. Our next step is trying to find an apartment together and actually properly settle down. So all of this is something that I got from debating, especially just for you to probably get into in-person tournaments and actually staying in the scene. You will very rarely have the opportunity to find so many people that are interested in the same things as you, that are as passionate and excited about and curious about the world around you as other debaters will be. Plus the huge upside of them also being from diverse social backgrounds, from diverse places around the world, and you therefore getting access to experiences and perspectives that otherwise I frankly don't know how you would get them. And that has probably been the most enriching thing for me from debating. Beyond that, there's also just this really fun thing that debating has very clear rules and very clear setups, and you can get to understand the format better and better. So you have this feeling of exploring this complicated strategy game step by step. And this is something that does transfer into other circumstances. So whenever I have to, I don't know, speak in any occasion or think about or like have to write an essay, you become a lot more aware of what exactly the rules are, who exactly reads them, who exactly adjudicates them, and how you change everything according to that. And that is something can be incredibly fun, just in terms of competing, but it also just always makes you aware kind of a more external perspective about those structures. So these are all things that I got through debating, and I'm incredibly grateful for having gotten through debating. And I hope that you get.
I'd like to bring to your notice that eco-anxiety is still not considered a disease by doctors around the globe. This term is only used by eco-psychologists. Extensive treatment with unnecessary medications of such conditions can increase the incidence of drug addiction, drug dependence, and withdrawal syndrome.
We need to act now. We cannot deny that eco-anxiety exists. The reality is that our acceptance is just not enough. In the past 40 years, the rate of climate change has increased at a much faster rate than ever before. And it increased to the double of what it used to be. Changes like ocean acidification, ozone layer depletion, drought, extinction, etc. have been growing more and more common. Earth has had changes earlier, the phases of heating and cooling, its share of cataclysmic events. The fact is that these changes have accelerated to such a rate that people are now getting affected by it more and more. A larger population is developing anxiety related to the environment. It is important to act now.
Medicalizing this as a disorder will again harm the society, be it in terms of overdiagnosis, self-diagnosis, or no diagnosis. Medicalization is unnecessary for those just rationally worried, and in the rare case that people feel irrational worry, their eco-anxiety is seen transforming into a more severe mental disorder, as I already mentioned, but medical treatment for that already exists.
The basic context here is that as climate-related problems grow, so will the number of people experiencing eco-anxiety. That is because they feel as though they cannot control environment problems, especially climate change. People may also feel guilty or anxious about the impact that their or their generation's behavior may have on the environment and that of the future generations as well. The basic stakeholders who we have here are children from the ages 0 to 13 years. These children are often influenced by what their parents do and say. And as such, even they may be influenced by eco-anxiety.
when you set up alternatives, be very clear that the other side can't have them. And if it's only a very, very thin sliver of differentiation, maybe try to focus a bit more on unique harms of medicalization, because ultimately you always want to, every bit of speech that you have, you want to use to prove that you're better than the other side, more relevant than the other side, get the right people and they don't, for instance.